resulted in lower provision for doubtful debts as compared to earlier quarter. It helped margin by about 0.4%. The CSR spend was also lower during the quarter. As you know, we have contributed significantly in the first 2 quarters towards COVID-related donations. So this spend was slightly on the lower side this quarter, primarily because we expect something to happen over the next few quarters to complete our committed 25 crores that we have committed for COVID relief. So the EBITDA for the quarter came to 17% as against 16.4% in the previous quarter. On the depreciation and amortization, it is in range at the same level at 4.3% like last quarter. The increase that you see in absolute terms in amortization is mainly because of the CAPIOT acquisition. With that, the EBIT was 12.7%, a growth of 0.6% over 12.1% of the previous quarter. Treasury income came in higher at rupees 288 million as against rupees 208 million in the last quarter, primarily on account of higher mark-to-market gain on mutual fund investments, and also partially because the increase in the underlying treasury size. Forex loss was much less at rupees 2 million as against rupees 51 million in the previous quarter. The profit before tax was rupees 1650 million at 15.3% as against 13.6% in the previous quarter. PTR for the quarter was 26.7% and PAT was rupees 1209 million at 11.2% as against 10.1% in the previous quarter. And for the 9 months, PAT came in at rupees 3129 million at 10.2%. The operational capex for the quarter was rupees 2. Sandeep has already mentioned about the cash on the book, so close to about $258 million in dollar terms. The DSO 57 days as against 63 days in the previous quarter. So you would have seen a spike that had happened in the DSO in the first quarter due to the COVID impact. We have been significantly able to improve the collections over the last 2 quarters, which has resulted in very good cash conversion. Forward contracts outstanding as on 31st December was 128 million at an average rate of rupees 76.93. And as we have seen, the board has declared an interim dividend of rupees 14 per share. With that, thanks everyone, and I hand it back to Sandeep.
Thank you, Sunil. So from here, we are open for questions. So please go ahead.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to withdraw yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. We will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Sandeep Shah from Equirus Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity and congratulations on a very solid, consistent, strong execution quarter on quarter. Sandeep wanted to understand how to read employee addition of 15%, of which you are saying close to 70% of them being lateral. So is it fair to say your growth momentum could be even stronger than what we have witnessed in the third quarter, in the coming quarters as a whole? Because most of the addition being lateral as a whole, and that is also reflective in the order book, where book to bill has been about 2x as a whole.
So Sandeep, good question. And yes, from a hiring perspective, obviously we are trying to hire ahead of the curve, and we are trying to do a few things. If you look at not just this quarter earnings, if you look at the last few quarter earnings, we have been announcing larger deals. We've been announcing multi-million-dollar, multi-year kind of deals. A number of the hiring that we have done goes towards fulfillment of earlier deals, ramping up the deals that we are doing or we have announced in the last quarter, and the anticipation of what we expect over the next few quarters. Out of the thing that we talked about, 1,618 hires that we talked about, roughly about 600 are freshers, which will take about 6 months to get productive. The other people are the ones who are getting deployed over the orders that we have booked in the last few quarters and this quarter. Also keep in mind that a number of our peers are also announcing good results. What that means is there could be a potential spike in attrition going ahead. So we are being prudent in hiring a little ahead of the curve, making sure that we are able to fulfill our commitments to our customers And yes, that should give you some confidence in overall.
Okay. And thanks for start disclosing the order book numbers. But how do we, because it includes all kind of deals, and on a book-to-bill, it's a 2x. So is this trend generally you remain at this kind of a book-to-bill ratio every quarter, or this is at very high rate and may not continue going forward?
So book-to-bill ratio, Sandeep, usually is if you are talking about annual contract value kind of things, right? So total contracts can be over 3 years, 5 years, and so on. So this overall number is basically across all kinds of things. If I was to, say going forward, what we will also try and do is give you the backlog for the next, 12 months in terms of executable backlog. So that is also something that we will start announcing overall. If you were to look at new part of it, roughly you can look at about 175 million out of this TCV was new in existing customers or new customers. That should give you some of the thing. And there's no average that can be consistent over quarters, so I don't want to put an average duration to this. But going ahead, in the next few quarters, we'll also start the next 12 months executable order book as well.
Thanks. And just last question on margins. Looking at this quarter, despite wage inflation and such a robust lateral employee addition, the employee cost has just gone up by 4% Q on Q. So is it fair to say the employee cost will have some headwind in the coming quarter, because that might have been added at the end of the quarter and the margin may not sustain at the current level? And what is an outlook over medium to longer term on terms of margin?
I'll take the first part and then I'll hand over to Sunil for that. So I don't think you should read it as a headwind for the future quarters. So look, what we are trying to do is this. We have a number of orders that we have booked. We are trying to kind of fulfill them, and we are trying to hire in time. And even when you hire, you take a little bit of time to deploy. That's a natural business cycle. If you look at our utilization has not suffered, despite our bringing people over a period of the quarter and so on. So I don't think you should read it as headwinds. You should read it as more, fulfilling in time and maybe being proactive about hiring and being prudent about any potential spikes in attrition that might happen. Sunil, over to you for the rest part.
Yeah, sure. So Sandeep, what you mentioned about headwind can happen only if these people do not actually get billed, which is not the case because of the deals that have been booked. So it's just the week-to-week deployment and billability efficiency which we track internally, which should ensure that there is no impact out of the employee addition. The other part that just to note is the pay hike that we had the effect was for 2 months. So to that extent only, the full pay hike impact will come in the next quarter. But with the efficiencies on multiple other areas, if you have seen the overall employee cost, we have been able to manage with utilization staying in the band of 80-81%. We have also still some operating levers, and as you know, this quarter gone by had seasonalities like furloughs and other things which should not impact us in the next quarter. And to that extent, there are some levers which can help us, continue the approach on margin expansion.
Okay. Thanks. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Susmit Patodia from Motilal Oswal AMC. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good evening. I'm wishing the team a happy new year. Great performance, Sandeep and team. This was really great. My first question is, from a medium-term perspective, you think the best of attrition and cost is behind us, and now this will become a challenge again? And I understand that you have probably advanced your hiring in anticipation of this, but how do you see this landscape evolving?
So see, from an attrition perspective, I don't think it will be a huge uptick or anything, but look, the overall IT environment or overall the environment from our peer perspective also, everyone is reporting good results. And it bodes good for our industry. And I hope it remains the same way. And if that is the situation, then obviously the good talent pool comes under pressure. So while we believe we are a very strong company to work for, a lot of our employees are long-term employees and so on, there may be a little bit of blip here or there. So that's where we have been prudent in making sure we are well staffed for the demand that we have. Now, a small bit attrition here there is a healthy thing any which ways, because that also reflects on the overall demand environment. So that is where I will leave it. I don't want anyone to be overly concerned about this. The other part, if you can ask again, I'll answer that. Cost part, what exactly did you mean by that?
So, is basically what I wanted to understand is the best of the margins done in Q3, because you have 100 basis point savings from travel. As you rightly said, attrition will slowly pick up and some resources may be under pressure. So I'm just trying to understand, is 17% EBITDA pretty much optimal from your perspective, or are there more levers left? Because at some point, travel costs will also come back.
Right. So from our perspective, the 70% that we have achieved, we believe there are some more levers, as Sunil earlier referred to. While the cost may come back in terms of travel, facilities, etc., as things open up, and we wish they open up faster than otherwise, but we do believe the revenue acceleration that we have brought in, the kind of deals that we have won, the kind of pipeline that we have, will help us, keep the revenue momentum going higher, and that should also help us in various, ways in margin improvement. Outside of this as well, there are a few other levers, whether it is in our alliance business, IT business, wherever else, that we are exercising, which will also help us optimize the cost. So we are reasonably okay at this, and we believe there is some more room to go.
Great. And my last question is on capital allocation. Now that you have DSOs, which are probably best in class in your peer set, so cash flow would not be a problem. What is the board or the management thinking about the 1,800-1,900 crores of cash?
So the high-level answer to that is we announced the dividend, which we increased from the last year. That's point one. Point two, we are actively looking at acquisitions. That would be the way to go. Given the market where it is, it doesn't make sense doing any buybacks at this point in time, and we are more inclined towards giving return to shareholders through our growth. That would be the strategy for the near term.
Got it. Thank you, and best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Mohit Jain from Anand Rathi. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. I have two questions. One is on the alliance business. So in the opening remark, you spoke about alliance business growth picking up significantly for FY22. So where do you think this could be? Can it match up to the company level, or do you think it will still be lower but much better than what we have seen in the last 2 years?
So again, I will not make forward-looking statements on the company level growth and all. All I would say is it will be better than what we have seen in the last few years. We already have booked some deals. We have a pretty good pipeline. We are seeing very good traction with the biggest customer that we have in all the pockets, sell to, sell with, sell through. So we are fairly confident it will come up, and hopefully it will be in line with the company average.
Okay, and second is on the IP-led revenues. So we saw positive momentum after a long gap. So given our portfolio of IP products, now there were two observations here. One, of course, this revenue decline which has completely stopped. Second was its impact on margin was not visible on a sequential basis. So going forward from an IP perspective, do you think we will see more stagnation rather than decline, given your portfolio of offerings? And second, what impact will it have on the margin side broadly, IP versus services?
Sure. Margin part, I'll let Sunil answer. On the overall IP part, look, there is at times seasonality in the IP business. That's the nature of the business, and that is not just with us. If you look at any of the companies that in our industry have IP, that will be the same with them or with the software product companies as well. So there is going to be seasonality, although we are working hard to make sure that we cover that seasonality through services on top of it and so on and so forth. Broadly, we hope to stabilize it, and then any which ways in the alliance business and otherwise the revenue growth should take care of overall, the growth, and that should not impact the company growth per se. On the margin front, Sunil.
So, Mohit, you would have also observed that so far as the IP related person months are concerned, we have been continuously working to optimize that. So some of these, areas which help us in cost optimization also ensure that our margins are in control. And the seasonality that you referred to with respect to the IP-led business, it sometimes also happens because of the customer's year-end kind of situation. So we have seen this happening probably several times in the past, as Sandeep mentioned. And not a whole lot needs to be worried about that. More keenly we are observing that we ensure that the margins in both the portfolios can be improved on a sustained basis.
So we should more look at it from a YOY perspective. The improvement we have seen in 3Q is more or less sustainable, is what you guys are saying in terms of IP revenue.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir. That's all from my side.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Dipesh from MK. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity and congratulations for very strong execution and robust performance. Two questions. First, just want to get your sense about mining trend. I think we report only more than 5 and 1 to 5. But if you can help us give some data or maybe qualitative comment, how you are seeing the 20, 30, 10, 50 million kind of account progress for us, and how one can look at playing out over medium term. And second question is about how you missed your deal intake number. If you can provide deal intake and component of it.
Okay, so let me start with the deal intake and the new component part of it. So the deal intake was 302 million in TCV terms. Out of the 302 million in TCV terms, 175.5 was in new in existing, and new in new customers. If you want to even look at the ACV terms, it was 256 million in ACV terms, 140.11 of that ACV was in new, in existing and new customers. Does that answer you on the deal intake?
Yeah, thank you.
On the mining trend, look, we announced the numbers between the top 1, top 2 to 5 and 6 to 10. If you look at it, the numbers there have grown heavily. But if you were to take the top 10 out and look at the growth overall, even the overall growth beyond the top 10 is fairly healthy. And we will look at giving you details in the fact sheet going ahead for the rest as well. But if you calculate it, pretty good, healthy growth across board. The mining efforts have been fairly effective. And there's a number of proactive proposals that have been won when I talk about the new wins as well. So we are seeing a fairly healthy growth in both existing accounts and new accounts outside of the top 10 as well.
Sandeep, I asked because we give customer engagement size more than 5 million and 1 to 5 million bucket. We are seeing steady progress on more than 5 million, where we are at 17 this quarter. But 1 to 5 million seems to be largely stable. And so that is where I wanted some detail. Maybe if you can provide.
From an overall perspective, if you look at it, there are a number of customer wins. Where we are focused is getting the new customer wins also to be in the category where we can do multiple year kind of a business. And some of those that we have won over a period of time will start moving into those categories as well. I'm pretty sure you will see the movement quarter on quarter increase on that in the subsequent quarters.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Abhishek Shindadkar from Elara Capital. Please go ahead.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity and congrats on great execution. Sandeep, just one question. Could you talk about the trends in BFS spends from a calendar 21 perspective? What you're seeing, is there a possibility that they can surprise positively? How is Persistent positioned, especially from a top 10, top 15 banks perspective? Thanks.
So from a BFSI perspective, look, the trends that we are seeing at a very high level are more related to the digital banking side of it, where more and more banks are trying to launch newer products on the online space. Now we are working with the likes of Mambu and similar, other providers, where we are taking their solutions to market, whether it is a large bank, whether it is up to a credit union. So the entire 9 yards is a span out there. Then there is a number of initiatives on the modernization space. A lot of banks, large and small, are looking at their tech strategy. They're looking at their roadmaps, working with the hyperscalers on seeing what can go to the cloud, what needs to be in a hybrid cloud kind of an environment. They're also looking at compliance-related things, because as you put more products on the digital side, there is issues with respect to security, fraud, authentication, many of those. So we are looking at a whole lot of compliance and security-related initiatives as well. Those are the broad contours. We are involved with some of the larger banks, and in fact, one of the top 5 customers is one of the largest banks in the world. And we are also seeing some traction with other large banks here in the US. Hopefully that answers you in a summary.
That's helpful. Thanks for taking my question and best wishes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Participants, if you have any questions, please enter star and one. You may restrict your questions to 2 per participant. The next question is from the line of Sandeep Reva from Edelweiss. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Good evening to the management team and congrats on excellent execution. Also, wish you a very happy new year. Sandeep, I have just a little more question on the strategic and long-term side. If you see, we have some challenges in last 4-5 years, both at the industry level and at Persistent level also, due to some transition and other things which are happening, some kind of pain which came from the non-enterprise side, ISV side and all. Now we are in a situation where we are actually, we have solved broadly all the problems. We have sectoral tailwind. We have all the leadership and very strong, deal wins and everything with us. And we also have, the problems which we are bringing down our growth in the past, they are also behind us. Moreover, if you see last 15-20 years history, it has never happened that, a robust growth in the cycle has come and, it has, the margins have gone down substantially ex of currency. It has never happened because operating leverage always comes to play. So my question is that, with so much of tailwind with you, the sectoral tailwind, the internal tailwind, the business transition tailwind, and you yourself are aware that, the kind of cycle for cloud which has come, that is not the way technology works. So then why we are so cagey about not, giving a clear direction how we are seeing growth from next 3-4 year perspective, not in quantitative number, but at least in qualitative number that, next 5 years looks much better than the previous 5 years because of these 3 tailwinds. And the margins, although one or 2 currency challenges or some, cost escalation because the demand is good, so we may have to hire people at little higher prices. But other than that, the margin should also be good. So what is stopping us to take some more time before you call it out, or you think that, this is a better way to look at 1 quarter at a time?
It's a good question, and a number of things in that. So Sandeep, here is what I would say. Look, a lot of things that you said are right. There's a secular trend. We are seeing a trend which is potentially a 3 to 5 year upcycle for companies like ourselves, especially with companies like us who have forward-looking capabilities, whether it is on the cloud side, whether it is on app modernization, hybrid cloud, security, data, AI ops, and we are confident of our ability to execute. I'm sure that track record over the last 5 quarters, consistent growth. Now we have also given the order book and so on. We'll also give executable order book, all kinds of metrics that you folks look for, and we are confident in our journey. Having said that, nobody has a crystal ball of how this COVID thing is going to go by. It would be prudent to wait for another 3 to 6 months before starting to kind of give overtly confident commentary and so on. We would want to wait for that. Second, we are also working towards doing an investor meet, hopefully in the Q1 beginning of next financial year. We were trying to do it in person, but looks like it will be a little while before that can be done. And we'll address a number of these questions when we meet. But at an overarching level, are we confident of our journey over the next few years? We are absolutely confident. We have the right skill sets. The company's foundation is fairly strong. We were always on the cutting edge of technology. And even if we were to announce some M&A in the near future, that would be on these lines itself, on the cutting edge of technology. So rest assured, we are well poised to ride this wave. But in terms of, putting a stake in the ground of what percentage growth, what percentage margins, etc., we would want to take a little bit more time and do it prudently. Hopefully that gives you confidence.
Okay, and another question, maybe you or I don't know if Sunil can answer, and it is very speculative right now, but there has been consistent hammering of the global tech companies in last few weeks that not on the stock price or the business side, but from the commentary which are coming globally that they will be punished in some or other way, or there will be. But today there was a comment that global tech will have to pay additional tax or something like that. So what is your sense? Have you seen this ever in the past, or specific any additional taxes, something which has been proposed and passed, or it is for the first time you guys are also saying it?
Sunil, I'll defer this to you.
No, so Sandeep, your observation is right. See, probably what is happening, we are right now passing through some kind of a contradiction. while some sectors of the economy have been going through a lot of pain, there is income distortion, there is revenue distortion and all that. And because that sector is requiring certain help, the tailwind is in favor of our sector. So probably it is playing on the minds of various regulators in various countries that probably here is an opportunity to balance some of these things, at least in the near term. So probably that's the way I read it. I don't think it's something that should be concerning in a big way. But yes, it's something that, see, the corporate tax rates were brought down in the US, in India, and many other countries to levels like 21% in US, 25% in India. So they probably are looking at this aspect, that why is it that this particular sector which got the tailwind should contribute a little more to what the government has put various resources to play. So we'll watch the developments as they happen.
Yeah, so basically, cost of doing business, right?
Correct.
Okay, thanks. That's all from my side, and best of luck for the coming quarter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Participants, if you have any questions, please enter star and 1. The next question is from the line of Ritesh Rathod from Nippon India. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Congratulations on good set of numbers. This question on the client mining of more than 5 million, even though you don't give us the bifurcation further, but what had led to such a strong performance in last 4 to 5 quarters? The numbers have been going up. If you can help us in terms of on-ground work, how you have changed the incentive structures, or few more qualitative details would be helpful.
Sure, Ritesh. So I'll try and keep it, simple, so that we can take some more questions as well. But at a high level, here is what we have done in the last 5 quarters. We had a fairly strong foundation as a company. We organized ourselves into vertical and service lines. We cross-incentivized the teams to go and do the best of the services. If we were selling 1 or 2 services in a customer, we went and tried to upsell ourselves into a customer, get more wallet share from the customer perspective. That was one side. Second was where we went into making sure that we can set of new partnerships. We focus on the partnerships that we already had and added to the partnerships. So I'm talking about hyperscalers, whether it is AWS, GCP, Azure on one side, on the other side. We doubled down on things like IBM Red Hat. We doubled down on Salesforce partnership that we have. We worked on the channels like ISG, Wavestone, and a number of other, sourcing and other advisory companies like Everest and so on and so forth, Zinovs of this world. So we looked at every part of our ecosystem from a market-facing perspective in order to service our customers better on one side, bringing in more sharpness into service lines and our vertical offerings on one side. On the other side, expanding our, presence in front of customers and prospects through various, industry influencers. We also, corrected the incentive part on our side to be able to incentivize the behavior in which we are looking at not just short-term projects, but we are looking at longer-term and bigger kind of, constructs with our existing and newer customers. So a bunch of these things started playing in, and, obviously things like this are backed up by our impeccable delivery, the kind of awards that we won, the ISG award that we won, where we, surprisingly have beaten pretty much everyone from Accenture to an IBM to an HCL to Wipro to whoever else in our industry. So there's a lot of those things that came together, and that started yielding results. And obviously, confidence based on confidence, whether it's our sales team or even the customers and so on. And if you look at our execution, we have been heads down on execution for the last 4 or 5 quarters in a very disciplined manner. So that's where it is. And the team has come together well. We have also added wherever we had white spaces in our talent. So a number of those things are the ones that are behind our growth, and we have fairly disciplined execution engine in place.
So if I see your services revenue base of $100 million quarterly, or maybe 120 as of now for last. And in last 9 months, despite this pandemic, we have grown at a rate of 16-17% year on year. So, and on the other side, if we see the Eastern European companies, their 5-year CAGR has been 23-25% kind of revenue CAGR in last 5 years. Is it possible for us to do that kind of CAGR on such a favorable base? I know you said in the previous question not to call out, but there are no disadvantage on your side in terms of portfolio mix or vertical mix or any kind of disadvantage, structural disadvantage, which doesn't allow you to perform at that run rate?
Structurally, there is no disadvantage. I don't see a reason why one could not perform at that. Obviously, it's a tall order. I wouldn't want to commit to those numbers, but structurally there's no issue. As a company, as I said, we have a fairly strong foundation. We have built very good service lines and vertical offerings. We have a good set of partnerships. We have a disciplined execution going, so there's nothing structurally that is stopping us from achieving.
Thanks. Best of luck.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Nitin Padmanabhan from Investec. Please go ahead.
Hi, good evening. Congrats on a great quarter. I just wanted to check, considering that this quarter has been very strong both on IT and services, and historically we have seen that after a strong Q3, typically Q4 has been relatively soft because of the IT revenue sort of coming off. And typically there's been a revenue decline. Do you think the current pipeline sort of will ensure that there's no decline in Q4?
So Nitin, very good observation, and that observation is not lost on us as a management team. And that's a healthy challenge that we have taken, and hopefully we'll come out of it well. That's where I will leave it. We have a good pipeline, we have good bookings, and our eye is on the ball.
Two other questions. One is on the net new of 175. Are the tenures like the usual 4-5 year types, or are they slightly longer?
No, so they are not longer. They are in fact shorter. Because see, that 175 that we talked about is new business in existing accounts and new accounts. And that is basically spread from small projects to large 3-year, 5-year kind of deals. I would say, that is much lesser than even 3-year if you look at the average part of it. So, and as we go along, we'll give you the executable order book so you don't have to keep guessing about all this.
Good, great. And one thing I think I missed in translation is, I think somewhere along the way you mentioned a number of 456 million ACV. Did I hear something wrong, or what was that in context to?
I don't think I said 450 million ACV. What I said is, let me repeat, 302 million TCV overall, including renewals and new. 256 million ACV out of that. 175.5 million new TCV. 140.11 ACV. That, if now you translate into your earlier question and do your math, that will give you the duration average, whatever it is.
Sure, fair enough. Thank you so much. This is very helpful. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Dipesh from MK. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. Is it possible to, I think you said some of the service line, the product engineering, cloud, Salesforce. So is it possible to provide some scale where we are in those service line and how you expect them to play out over medium term?
We can include that in the fact sheet somewhere down the line. I don't want to, give it right now because it's a whole lot of data points and we have 11 minutes left in this call. But, if that is a request from the investor community, we'll start including it down the line in terms of service line revenues as well, the way we will give the vertical revenues.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. The next question is from the line of Sandeep Grewal. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for giving me opportunity again. Sandeep, I have one question which I missed to ask last time. But what is your strategy for next 4 to 6 quarters or 8 quarters? Whether you want to just focus right now to strengthen your existing services and geographies and verticals, or we are also looking to add some of the high growth verticals as we move forward? Because basically there is a lot of delta in some of the verticals very big right now, and would you go for that strategy, or you will first consolidate your existing verticals in a very strong way?
I would say the latter. We would first consolidate the industry verticals in a stronger way, but more important than that, look, where are we the sharpest? As Persistent, we are the sharpest when it comes to service lines, when it comes to the technology expertise that we bring to the table. The number of that technology expertise respectfully is agnostic of the industry verticals that we service. So if we sharpen our industry service lines, that is where the most amount of growth will come. That is where you will see us, if you look at the future, let's say 4, 6, 8 quarters, organically and inorganically, we will be focused there. If we do inorganic, that may bring us more into geography focus as well as Europe. It may bring us more into the technology focus that we currently have. So our focus will remain on being the best in wherever we are right now. And as we go along, if there is opportunistically something that we can enter into in a bigger way, that's a separate issue. But for the next 4, 6, 8 quarters, this is where we are heads down. And there's an ample amount of market for us.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Sandeep Shah from Equirus Securities. Please go ahead.
Thanks. Sandeep, wanted to understand on the Alliance side, last time you said that you are opening many purchasing windows outside even the technology domain area of your top. So any status updates on that in terms of healthcare and the BFSI sub-segments of your top client?
Sure. So good question. And Sandeep, one of the larger deals that is there in our fact sheet as well as in the press release is in the healthcare space with the same customer that you talked about, and it's fairly large. So we are definitely opening newer avenues of discussion. We are very well aligned to their new strategy, whether it is on their product/services side. So, from that perspective, yes, the expansion will be in different parts, whether it is in the healthcare, whether it is in the telco, whether it is in financial services space with the largest customer as well. And we are seeing very good traction there.
Okay. So is it fair to say your strategy in Alliance is to keep creating opportunity within services which will help you to compensate the volatility in the IP side of the business, which you earlier indicated it's not very bullish scenario where your focus is more on margin rather than optimizing the IP revenue within Alliance?
Yes, to a certain extent that is right. So let's quickly go over it. So the services part is one part where we deliver a sell to kind of services to the largest customer. The other part is also working with them on our customers, joint customers, newer customers, and so on. That's another revenue stream, and that's equally important because if you look at the IBM strategy, they are betting big on Red Hat, they are betting big on hybrid cloud and cloud packs and so on. So as they look to partners like us, we are very well positioned because of our long history with them. We have worked on many of their products. We have even taken many of their products onto the Red Hat environment and so on. So we are well poised, much ahead of other GSIs in going to market also with them. So all of these 3 revenue streams are there. And as we build the business on these 3 revenue streams, the volatility, etc., will be much lesser. And this business is roughly about 22-23% of the business. The rest of the business, any which ways, is growing very well. So there are many benefits of this. So not only will we grow the Alliance business, but also take away the volatility and overall as a company grow.
Okay. And Sandeep, just last thing as a strategic question, it is perceived that the Persistent portfolio has a very low legacy services or legacy business. So as you grow your order, say most of the order book will translate into growth versus for many years, the baggage leads to a leakage in the revenue and the new order wins does not translate. So for you, it would be a reverse. Is it the right way of looking at it?
At a high level, I would agree with what you are saying. And yes, that would create a healthy set of backlog for us and help us grow.
Okay. Thanks and all the best.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Diresh Bhai from Nirmal Bang. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. A couple of questions. One is on IP. You mentioned that you would be spending quite a bit of money on M&A. Do you foresee spending that on IP?
So M&A would be more in terms of giving capabilities on cloud, security, data, any of these kind of things. When we look at companies in that space, we are looking at companies which will come with capabilities and some kind of an IP, may not be a product. We are not into the products business. The IP is around, let's say they have built some reusable frameworks which make them sharper around a certain partner or a partner technology and so on. So that is the way we are looking at it. We are not looking to acquire IP-based companies.
Okay, my second question, there has been a lot of rebadging kind of deals that have been announced in the industry in the last, I would say, six months plus. Are you looking at any of those? Maybe not at the scale that some of your larger peers have been doing, but somewhat on a smaller scale?
Yeah, so if you look at it, a few quarters back, we had announced a large deal to the market as well. And that included rebadging roughly about 200 plus, team members from that customer to us. There are a few other deals that involve this, but they are not at the huge size and scale. There are a few of them, and those are business as usual constructs, what we need to do.
Okay, lastly on Europe, any thoughts on Europe? What do you intend doing there? You have a very large exposure to US.
Yeah, so as a strategy, we are absolutely looking to double down on Europe. And it's both from a geopolitical risk mitigation perspective, but also from an opportunity capture perspective. There's significant opportunities in Europe as well. As you know, we made a couple of acquisitions in Europe over the last few years. We have a small footprint, but a growing footprint. If you look at this quarter's numbers as well, on that small footprint, we have grown decently well. We are adding to the leadership team in Europe. You will see some announcements over the next few months in that. We are also looking at acquisitions which can give us an intersection of European presence and the technology capabilities or the vertical capabilities that we want. So you will see some things on those lines as well in the next few quarters. So absolutely, Europe is a focus area for us. And 3 to 4 years from now, when we look at it, it should be 15% to 18% at least of our revenues, if not more.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. As there are no further questions from the participants, I would now like to hand the conference back to Mr. Kalra for closing comments.
Thank you. So first of all, thank you all for participating in our, invest. We hope this year goes very well for all of us. We also would like to thank our 12,000 plus employees and our customers for their support in our growth journey. And we look forward to being back with you in 3 months from now and reporting on our progress. With that, we would like to close the call. Thank you.
Thank you very much. On behalf of Persistent Systems Limited, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines.